The NFL has seen some legendary figures roam the sidelines. Men whose leadership, strategy, and ability to win shaped the very history of the league. From dynasties built on brilliant game plans to innovators who changed how football is played, these coaches weren't just managers, they were culture setters and icons who left lasting legacies. In this video, we'll count down the 10 greatest NFL coaches of all time, ranking them by their career wins, Super Bowl and championship success, and the indelible moments they created along the way. Before we dive in, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss more deep dives into football history. Now, let's kick things off with number 10. Bill Parcells, known affectionately as the Big Tuna, is one of the most influential and successful coaches in NFL history. His coaching career is defined not only by his 2 Super Bowl titles with the New York Giants, but also by his incredible ability to transform struggling franchises into winners. Parcells began his NFL head coaching career in 1983 with the Giants, and by 1986, he had built them into champions. His first Super Bowl victory came in Super Bowl 21, where his Giants defeated the Denver Broncos behind a ferocious defense led by Lawrence Taylor and quarterback Phil Simms, who delivered one of the greatest individual performances in Super Bowl history by completing 22 of 25 passes. 4 years later, Parcells won another title in Super Bowl 25, defeating the Buffalo Bills in a dramatic 20-19 game, remembered for Scott Norwood's missed field goal. What made Parcells special wasn't just the trophies, it was his philosophy. He believed in building tough, physical teams that controlled the line of scrimmage. His defenses were always disciplined, and his teams played with an edge that reflected their coach's personality. Parcells had a reputation for being demanding and sometimes confrontational, but players respected him because he pushed them to reach their full potential. He was also a master motivator, known for getting inside his players' heads and knowing exactly what buttons to push. After his success with the Giants, Parcells continued to prove his coaching brilliance. He revitalized the New England Patriots in the 1990s, taking them to Super Bowl 31. Later, he did the same with the New York Jets, leading them to the AFC Championship game in 1998. Even late in his career, he turned the Dallas Cowboys into a playoff team after years of mediocrity. Though he didn't win as many championships as some others on this list, Parcells' legacy is immense. His coaching tree includes legends like Bill Belichick, Tom Coughlin, and Sean Payton, proving his influence still shapes the league today. Parcells will always be remembered as a no-nonsense leader who turned every team he touched into a contender. When you think of consistency, innovation, and iconic leadership, Tom Landry stands as one of the most respected figures in NFL coaching history. As the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys from their inception in 1960 through 1988, Landry transformed a brand new expansion team into one of the most recognizable and successful franchises in sports. Over 29 seasons, he compiled 250 wins, made 20 consecutive winning seasons, and secured 2 Super Bowl championships, leaving a legacy few can match. Landry was known for his calm, stoic demeanor on the sidelines, always seen in his trademark fedora, but beneath that cool exterior was one of the greatest football minds the game has ever seen. He was a true innovator, introducing concepts like the flex defense, which became the backbone of his Cowboys' success during the 1970s. On the offensive side, he popularized the shotgun formation, giving quarterbacks more time to read defenses, a tactic that is still widely used today. His crowning moments came with Super Bowl victories in the 1970s. In Super Bowl VI, Landry led the Cowboys to their first championship with a dominating 24-3 win over the Miami Dolphins, shedding the label of next year's champions. Then, in Super Bowl XII, his team's defense suffocated the Denver Broncos, giving Dallas its second Lombardi trophy and solidifying the Cowboys as America's team. Beyond the wins, Landry developed and coached legends like Roger Staubach, Tony Dorsett, and Randy White, who became the backbone of a dynasty. What makes Landry's career even more remarkable is his longevity and adaptability. He He coached in 5 different decades and managed to keep the Cowboys competitive through multiple roster turnovers and changes in the league. Even after setbacks, Landry found ways to innovate and keep his team at the forefront of the NFL. Though his tenure ended controversially in 1988 when Jerry Jones purchased the team, Landry's contributions are undeniable. His influence can still be felt in modern schemes, and his teams built the brand that made the Cowboys the most valuable franchise in sports. Tom Landry wasn't just a coach, he was the foundation of the Dallas Cowboys' identity and a true NFL legend. George Halas isn't just one of the greatest coaches in NFL history, he is one of the men who helped create the league itself. Known as Papa Bear, Halas was a founder, player, owner, and, most importantly, the legendary head coach of the Chicago Bears. His career on the sidelines stretched an astounding 4 decades, from 1920 through 1967, with a few breaks in between. Over that time, Halas amassed 318 career wins, a record that stood for decades until surpassed by Don Shula. More importantly, he led the Bears to 6 NFL championships, dominating professional football in its earliest years. Halas was a pioneer in every sense of the word. In an era where football was still finding its footing, he helped establish the professional game as a true American pastime. His teams became known for their toughness, discipline, and ground-and-pound style of play, built around punishing defenses and powerful rushing attacks. One of his signature accomplishments came in 1940, when his Bears destroyed the Washington Redskins 73-0 in the NFL championship game, the most lopsided score in league history. That game popularized the T formation, an offensive system Halas championed that revolutionized football strategy and paved the way for the modern passing game. Under Halas, the Bears developed into one of the NFL's cornerstone franchises. He coached and mentored legendary players like Red Grange, Sid Luckman, and later Dick Butkus, all while serving as a father figure to the organization. His ability to adapt across multiple eras, from the leather helmet days to the modern televised NFL, speaks volumes about his football mind. Few coaches have ever sustained success across such a long period, and Halas's fingerprints are still all over the league today. Beyond the X's and O's, Halas was integral in keeping the NFL alive during the Great Depression and building it into a viable business. He didn't just coach the Bears, he kept the league afloat with his vision, leadership, and commitment. The NFL as we know it wouldn't exist without him. George Halas will always be remembered as both a championship-winning coach and one of the founding fathers of professional football. Few coaches in NFL history can claim the level of innovation and long-term influence that Paul Brown had on the sport. While his 166 career NFL wins may not match the massive totals of others on this list, Brown's contributions to how the game is coached, prepared for, and played are unmatched. He was the founder and head coach of the Cleveland Browns from 1946 to 1962, and later the Cincinnati Bengals, leaving behind a coaching legacy that completely reshaped professional football. Brown's career started in the All-America Football Conference, where his Browns were unstoppable. From 1946 to 1949, the team won all 4 AAFC championships, compiling a stunning 52-4 and 3 record. When the Browns joined the NFL in 1950, many doubted whether they could compete with established teams. Brown silenced those critics immediately, leading Cleveland to the NFL championship in their very first year. Over his tenure, he would win 3 NFL championships and establish the Browns as a powerhouse. What separates Paul Brown is not just his wins, but his revolutionary approach. He introduced the concept of the modern playbook, developed the idea of using game film to scout opponents, and even implemented the use of radio communication in quarterback helmets. He was also one of the first to use a practice squad, giving teams the chance to develop young talent. These innovations became standard practices that every NFL team still uses today. Brown was also a strict disciplinarian. He treated his teams like professionals, instituting dress codes, curfews, and regimented practice schedules. His approach brought order and professionalism to a sport that, at the time, still carried a reputation for being unorganized. Players respected his structure, and while some clashed with his demanding style, his system produced consistent winners. Later in his career, Brown founded the Cincinnati Bengals, serving as their first head coach. While he didn't capture another championship in Cincinnati, he laid the groundwork for the franchise and further cemented his reputation as a football visionary. Simply put, Paul Brown modernized coaching. Every coach who came after him owes something to his innovations. That's why his name remains etched as one of the greatest football minds of all time. Chuck Noll is the architect behind one of the most dominant dynasties in NFL history, the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers. Before Noll's arrival in 1969, the Steelers were one of the league's weakest franchises, with only a handful of winning seasons in nearly 4 decades. By the time he retired in 1991, he had completely transformed the team into a powerhouse, winning 4 Super Bowls and leaving behind one of the greatest legacies of any head coach. Noll's career record of 209 wins is impressive, but what defines his tenure are the championships. He became the first coach in NFL history to win 4 Super Bowls, capturing titles in 9, 10, 13, and 14. The Steelers dynasty was built on balance, a suffocating defense nicknamed the Steel Curtain, and a physical, run-heavy offense led by Franco Harris, complemented by quarterback Terry Bradshaw. Noll demanded toughness and discipline, and his teams reflected that on the field. What makes Noll stand out is his eye for talent. He was a master of the NFL draft, arguably the greatest ever at evaluating young players. In 1974 alone, he drafted 4 future Hall of Famers: Lynn Swann, Jack Lambert, John Stallworth, and Mike Webster, a class unmatched in league history. Combined with earlier picks like Mean Joe Green and Mel Blount, Noll built a roster stacked with talent that he molded into champions. Despite his accomplishments, Noll was never flashy. He wasn't a fiery motivator like Vince Lombardi or a media personality like Bill Parcells. Instead, he was calm, composed, and focused strictly on football. He believed in preparation and letting the results speak for themselves. His understated style earned him immense respect, and players valued his ability to develop them into professionals both on and off the field. By the time Noll retired, the Steelers had gone from perennial losers to one of the league's crown jewel franchises. His ability to build, lead, and sustain greatness makes him one of the most important figures in NFL history. Without Chuck Noll, the Steelers wouldn't be the storied franchise they are today, and his 4 Super Bowl rings remain a testament to his unmatched success. When talking about consistency and longevity, no coach in NFL history matches Don Shula. Over 33 seasons, Shula compiled an NFL record 347 career victories, a mark that still stands today. He coached the Baltimore Colts and, more famously, the Miami Dolphins, where he built one of the league's most iconic dynasties. Shula's coaching career is defined by his adaptability, his ability to sustain excellence across decades, and, of course, his crowning achievement, leading the only perfect season in NFL history. Shula first made his mark with the Colts in the 1960s. In 1968, he led Baltimore to the NFL championship and a berth in Super Bowl III, though they were upset by Joe Namath and the New York Jets in one of football's most famous games. That loss stung, but it set the stage for his redemption with Miami. In 1970, Shula became head coach of the Dolphins, a struggling expansion team at the time. Within 2 years, he had built them into champions. The pinnacle came in 1972 when the Dolphins went 14-0 in the regular season and swept through the playoffs, finishing 17-0 with a Super Bowl VII victory over Washington. To this day, no team has ever replicated a perfect season. Shula and the Dolphins followed up with another title in 1973, solidifying back-to-back championships and cementing their place in NFL history. What made Shula remarkable was his ability to adapt to the talent on his roster. With Miami in the early 1970s, he leaned on a bruising run game led by Larry Zonka and Mercury Morris. In the 1980s, when Dan Marino emerged as one of the greatest passing quarterbacks ever, Shula shifted his philosophy, opening up the offense to maximize Marino's arm. Few coaches could completely change their style and still remain successful, but Shula did it seamlessly. Beyond the wins and rings, Shula was respected as a model of integrity and leadership. He rarely had losing seasons, and his teams were always disciplined, prepared, and competitive. His ability to win with different teams, different styles, and across different eras makes him one of the greatest coaches ever. Don Shula wasn't just successful, he was the standard for coaching excellence. Bill Walsh didn't just win championships, he changed the way football is played. Known as the father of the West Coast offense, Walsh revolutionized offensive strategy by emphasizing short, precise passes and timing routes to control the game. Though his head coaching career with the San Francisco 49ers lasted only a decade, 1979 to 1988, his impact on the NFL is immeasurable. Walsh compiled 102 career wins and led the 49ers to 3 Super Bowl titles, building one of the most iconic dynasties in football history. When Walsh took over the 49ers in 1979, they were one of the worst teams in the league, finishing 2-14 the previous season. Within 3 years, he had turned them into champions. In Super Bowl 16, Walsh's team defeated the Cincinnati Bengals, and it marked the start of a new era in San Francisco. His offense, executed by quarterback Joe Montana, relied on quick passes that neutralized aggressive defenses and maximized yards after the catch. Players like Dwight Clark and later Jerry Rice thrived in this system, and the West Coast offense spread across the league as copycats tried to replicate Walsh's success. Walsh's second title came in Super Bowl 19, where his 49ers dominated Dan Marino's Dolphins 38-16. That game cemented Walsh's offensive system as the future of the NFL. His third championship in Super Bowl 23 was perhaps his most dramatic, as Montana led a legendary 92-yard game-winning drive against the Bengals in the final minutes. Walsh retired after that game, leaving the stage with his legacy fully intact. Beyond his schemes, Walsh was a master at building organizations. He valued preparation, attention to detail, and surrounding himself with great assistants. His coaching tree includes legends like George Seifert, Mike Holmgren, and even later Super Bowl winners such as Andy Reid and Mike Shanahan. Through them, his philosophies continued to shape the NFL for decades after his retirement. Bill Walsh's career may not have been the longest, but his innovations permanently altered the game's landscape. He turned the 49ers into a dynasty, mentored Hall of Fame players, and left behind a coaching tree that still thrives today. Walsh isn't just one of the greatest coaches ever, he's one of the most important architects in football history. Joe Gibbs is one of the rare coaches who can claim true dynasty status without relying on just one-star quarterback or system. As head coach of the Washington Redskins from 1981 to 1992, and later in a second stint from 2004 to 2007, Gibbs compiled 154 career wins and, more importantly, delivered 3 Super Bowl championships. What sets him apart is that each of those titles came with a different starting quarterback, proving his ability to adapt and win no matter who was under center. Gibbs inherited a struggling Washington franchise and quickly molded it into a contender. By his second season in 1982, he had led the Redskins to Super Bowl 17, where they defeated the Miami Dolphins 27-17 behind John Riggins' iconic 43-yard touchdown run on 4th down. 5 years later, Gibbs won his second championship with quarterback Doug Williams, who became the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl. Williams' performance in Super Bowl 22 remains legendary, as he threw 4 touchdown passes in a single quarter, leading Washington to a 42-10 rout of the Denver Broncos. In 1991, Gibbs capped off his incredible run with a 3rd Super Bowl title. This time, quarterback Mark Rypien led the way, guiding the Redskins to a dominant 37-24 victory over the Buffalo Bills in Super Bowl 26. That team is often regarded as one of the most complete in NFL history, boasting a strong offensive line known as the Hogs, a balanced attack, and a stout defense. What made Gibbs so effective was his ability to tailor his system to his personnel. Whether it was grinding out games with Riggins, unleashing deep passes with Rypien, or maximizing his offensive line, Gibbs always adjusted to win. He also had an innate ability to motivate his players and maintain unity, building a culture that emphasized toughness, preparation, and resilience. After retiring the first time, Gibbs shocked the football world by returning in 2004. Though he didn't reach another Super Bowl, he restored credibility to Washington and even led the team to playoff appearances. Beyond football, Gibbs went on to dominate in NASCAR, proving his championship pedigree wasn't confined to one sport. Joe Gibbs' 3 Super Bowls with 3 different quarterbacks is a feat unmatched in NFL history, making him one of the greatest and most versatile coaches the game has ever seen. When you think of greatness in coaching, Vince Lombardi is the name that immediately comes to mind. The NFL's championship trophy is named in his honor, and for good reason. Lombardi represents the gold standard of leadership, discipline, and winning. Though his head coaching career with the Green Bay Packers lasted only 9 seasons, 1959 to 1967, his accomplishments and influence are monumental. Lombardi compiled a 96-34-6 record, won 5 NFL championships in 7 years, and captured the first 2 Super Bowls ever played. When Lombardi took over the Packers in 1959, the team was a disaster, coming off a 1-10 season. Within 2 years, he had transformed them into champions. In 1961, Green Bay won its first NFL title under Lombardi, and they repeated in 1962, solidifying the franchise as a powerhouse. But his most dominant stretch came from 1965 to 1967, when the Packers won 3 straight championships, capped off by victories in Super Bowl I and II. That run remains one of the greatest dynasties in league history. Lombardi's teams were known for their toughness, discipline, and execution. His Packers perfected the power sweep, a seemingly simple play that relied on precision, timing, and physical dominance. He demanded perfection in practice and instilled a culture of accountability where every player knew their job and was expected to execute flawlessly. His fiery speeches, relentless drive, and unwavering belief in fundamentals became hallmarks of his coaching style. What made Lombardi legendary wasn't just the wins, it was his leadership. He was a master motivator who inspired his players to give everything they had. Quotes like, "Winning isn't everything, it's the only thing," and "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence," remain iconic. Lombardi also broke barriers by standing firmly against discrimination, treating all his players equally during a time when racial tensions were high in America. Lombardi retired from Green Bay after the 1967 season, but returned briefly to coach the Washington Redskins in 1969, leading them to their first winning season in over a decade. Though his life was cut short by cancer in 1970, his impact lives on. Vince Lombardi isn't just one of the greatest coaches of all time, he's the very embodiment of excellence in football. No coach in NFL history has combined longevity, adaptability, and championship dominance quite like Bill Belichick. Over a head coaching career that began with the Cleveland Browns in 1991 and blossomed with the New England Patriots starting in 2000, Belichick has amassed over 330 career wins and an unprecedented 6 Super Bowl championships as a head coach. Add in 2 more Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator with the New York Giants, and his resume is unmatched in the modern era. Belichick's legacy is tied to his 2-decade dynasty with the Patriots. When he took over in 2000, the team was a middling franchise with little history of success. That changed quickly. In 2001, after Tom Brady replaced an injured Drew Bledsoe, Belichick and Brady shocked the world by defeating the heavily favored St. Louis Rams in Super Bowl 36. That victory launched the most dominant run in NFL history. Over the next 2 decades, Belichick guided the Patriots to 9 Super Bowl appearances, winning 6 of them. The early 2000s dynasty included back-to-back titles in Super Bowls 38 and 39, cementing New England as a powerhouse. After a brief drought, Belichick and Brady added 3 more titles in the 2000s, including a dramatic comeback from a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons in Super Bowl 51, perhaps the defining game of Belichick's career. His final title, Super Bowl 50 1953 showcased his defensive genius, holding the high-powered Los Angeles Rams to just 3 points. Belichick's greatness lies in his adaptability. No coach has reinvented his team as many times. Whether it was winning with a defense-first approach, a record-setting offense in 2007, or grinding out games with efficient running attacks, Belichick always tailored his strategy to his personnel and opponents. He is known for his meticulous preparation, often eliminating an opponent's best weapon, and for instilling the do-your-job culture that defined New England's success. Though his later years with the Patriots brought more challenges, his legacy is secure. Belichick's 6 Super Bowls as a head coach are the most in history, and his influence stretches far beyond the trophies. He is the ultimate strategist, a master motivator, and the greatest head coach the NFL has ever seen. From innovators who reshaped the game to leaders who built dynasties, these coaches stand as the very best in NFL history. Their wins, championships, and legacies continue to shape the league we watch today, proving that greatness isn't just about talent on the field, it's about the vision and leadership on the sidelines. Who do you think deserves a spot on this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this countdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into football history.